This is my C8 Z06. Well, it's started off as a Z06, mostly except for the ZR1 type mods that I have on it, which includes now this ZR1 wing that I have on here now. And guys, I can tell you it completely transforms how this car looks. This wing is just so massive, you can literally eat on it. It is just like, it's a freaking plate in regards to how much surface area there is on this wing, that I actually really just love how it looks. I love how it has those two like mini fins that go along the center sections here, along with then the actual winglets on the ends of the wing, that just, it all just comes together and just looks so good. And the best thing about it is that this wing can be installed on any C8 variant that you have, whether it's a C8 Stingray, a Z06 Eray, or heck, even a ZR1. And it comes from Extreme Online Store, or EOS for short. Now this huge carbon fiber ZR1 wing starts at around $2,200 if you just want the wing itself without any kind of brackets or any of that kind of stuff installed. If you want to get the brackets, it's around $2,500, which I'm gonna go out in a limb and say for most people, you're gonna need to get the whole entire bracket system. So let's call it that this costs about $2,500. And this is a massive freaking wing. I thought the Z07 wing, the one that's specifically made for the Z06, I thought that wing was pretty big. This takes it to a whole nother level. The amount of aggressiveness that this wing brings is just freaking amazing. And and mind you, I know I am making this video kind of a little bit backwards. Usually I do my product review videos where I am making the video first before I've installed this on. This I actually ended up installing first before even doing this video because I was just that impatient for it. I wanted to have this freaking wing installed. And so I might have been a little bit impatient when it came to getting this thing put on my Z06. But there are a few caveats that I do want to bring up in regards to the installation process for this, because it was a little bit more complex than I originally thought in regards to it. It is a bolt-on system. You are able to bolt this on, but it doesn't take any of the previous Z07 type brackets. It's all completely new brackets, at least for the actual bracket that holds the wing in place. The underside, the stuff that actually goes inside behind the bumper, that bracket system's all the same, at least when it comes from EOS. But the brackets that attach this, you need to use the special ZR1 brackets that go along with this system. If you're buying the whole entire system fresh with the brackets, it should come with everything. But the little ZR1 brackets that are made out of aluminum, I'll show them right here so you can get like a good idea of what they should look like. Those are the brackets you want to have in order to be able to install these on. And then I will say on top of that, you definitely want to use some Loctite along with some washers to make sure that this whole entire thing is secure on there. This isn't like the previous Z07 option where the internal metal brackets hold all the loading. The carbon fiber struts are structural, so they're carrying the structural loads from the actual fasteners to those struts and then to the wing. So that's why I'm saying that you definitely want to use some Loctite, because it's those four essential bolts that are holding up the entire wing, which frankly I wish that's one thing I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I wish that there was some internal structure that was holding it all together a little bit more securely. But in this case, that's what's holding it on together. It's still secure enough. I've already tested out this wing in Mexico doing, above 100 miles an hour, and the wing was solid. There's no issues with the wing, like thinking that it's going to come loose or anything like that. It's solid on there. I will also say that when you get this wing, it does come disassembled. At least the struts in the center come disassembled from the actual wing itself. So they are fastened with actual bolts that hold it all in place. But me personally, I actually use some JB Weld all along the joint area here, just to make sure that it has that extra secureness kind of deal, instead of it just being held on by like a couple of bolts for each strut. The actual winglets on the end side of the wing, they already come pre-assembled, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm just talking about these two little strut bolts, or struts themselves. I hope I'm pointing it out correctly on the camera. So just something to keep in mind. If you are planning to do this at home, you can do it at home. It is feasible to do it at home. It assembles the same way as how the Z07 wing is, except you're just bolting a different wing on essentially. So if you've already done the whole entire work in regards to the understructure for the Z07 wing from EOS, everything except for, again, those two brackets, the ZR1 brackets, should just be plug and play. Now, I will say putting this wing together was a little bit challenging. You have to be very, very careful in regards to those struts, installing the two bolts that go into the main wing. I will tell you guys that I cross-threaded one of those bolts, and that made it much more difficult to actually get this all put together, mostly because I just didn't have it perfectly lined up. You have to have those struts to the wing perfectly lined up before you actually start cranking down the screws, because they're a very, very tight fit. And because of that, if you don't get them perfectly lined up, you can have them misaligned, and then you'll just cross thread the whole entire thing, and that just ends up being a nightmare, which it was for me personally. Doing that, I had to get out I basically had to get a tap to redo the actual threads in there, and that was just an extra bit of effort that I did not want to have to deal with. So something to keep in mind, when you're putting the actual wing together and putting those struts onto the wing, be very careful with how those struts are put onto the wing. Make sure those bolts are fully aligned before you start cranking down and actually getting the struts in there. Another thing about this whole entire thing, while I do appreciate the actual main pieces from EOS, I ended up getting my own hardware in regards to the screws and stuff like that I use, the bolts. They're M6 bolts, but I found they're M6 bolts that you can get from like Home Depot or Lowe's, and I got them in black so that they would match and so that they would match with the carbon fiber and everything. But that being said, at least the bolts that attach the wing to the bumper, and then the actual bolts themselves that attach the struts to the wing itself when you're assembling the wing itself together, I actually ended up using M6 bolts that were a little bit shorter than the ones that are provided from EOS. The ones from EOS are like 35 millimeters long, which I felt were a little bit too long. So I went with ones that were a little bit shorter, about 25 millimeters for the struts going to the wing. And then for the ones that attach the wing itself to the bumper, I went with the 20 millimeter length bolts that were M6, along with some M6 washers and such. All in all, I'm not saying not to use EOS's hardware, but I just felt more comfortable using what I exactly knew was going to fit and work and not have an issue of the bolt being a little bit too long. I felt like some of the bolts were a little too long to actually make this work. So just something to keep in mind. Now let's talk about visibility real quick, because I know at least when it comes to the OEM ZR1 wing, you're not able to really see from the back, and at least when the camera is set up right here. Thankfully, EOS has actually set the wing at a neutral angle kind of position, like a neutral position. So you're actually able to see through a majority of the wing. You actually have very good visibility. In fact, I would argue it's actually a little bit better visibility from this wing setup than even the Z07 wing, at least when you're looking out the back through either the camera or through just the mirrors themselves. There's a little bit more visibility in between the wing itself. So I'm actually really glad that EOS took a more neutral position in regards to that angle for that wing, because if it was a really aggressive wing angle, you would not really be able to see out the back of this car. And frankly, I was pretty much prepared before I got this wing that I was gonna have to try to reposition that rear camera and try to reposition it right behind the bumper. I was getting ready to make a whole video out of that. At this point, I don't need to. There's plenty of visibility that I don't need to go through that extra steps, because I was gonna get some extra wiring, literally take the wiring that connects to that rear view camera and reroute it all along the actual sides and then into the rear bumper, and then get a secondary rear camera to attach to that rear bumper. And currently, at least ZR1 owners have it set up that way, like from factory. So that's why I was thinking I was gonna have to do the same thing, but thankfully I don't. So even though that would have been a cool extra video, I might end up doing that video, but at least for the intents of this video and such, if you're curious about visibility is still really, really good looking at the back from and that would include my Corvette, C8 Corvette coupe owners, not just the HTC owners in my case, because I have an HTC. Now, either way, if you are getting this wing from EOS as your first wing, if you had like the low duckbill kind of spoiler and you're going through and you're going to a high wing and you're going to this ZR1 wing, it does come with that plate on the bottom, that carbon fiber plate on the bottom that will cover up all the different holes that you have there, and that sticks on with double-sided tape. And I end up putting a little bit extra double-sided tape to make sure that it's really secure. And it just lines up in place and just looks really, really good. Out of all the different coverings options that are out there from different companies, EOS looks very purposeful, that it molds into the actual lines, like curves of the rear bumper, as compared to just being like a flat plate that just kind of sits on top and, you know, that's where you got. So I definitely like how that came out in regards to this. It all lines up pretty well. Talking about fitment real quick, the fitment on this is pretty good. I would say it is about a B plus, maybe touching an A, but more like a B plus. The reason why I say that is because I do have a little bit of a gap where, at least for mine, where the struts meet the actual bumper. There's a little tiny gap, not something you're gonna notice if you're standing and you're like kind of looking down on it, but if you are at like eye level with it, then you can see that there's a little bit of a gap. But honestly, it's something that, so long as it's secure, I'm not really paying attention to it. You barely will ever notice it. So I think this wing is really, really nice. I love it on my C8 Z06. I love the ZR1, how it looks, but for some people, including myself at this point, it's a little bit out of my price range, but I like that look, and I wanted to get that look on my C8 Z06. And now I have that. Between that and the front ZR1 hood, I have a majority of the look already, and I absolutely love it. And I know some of you guys want that look as well, and you can get it with this wing from EOS. Okay, the next thing we can talk about is the finish quality. The finish quality on this is pretty good. I would give this a solid A in regards to how the finish looks on it here. I mean, the whole entire top of the wing, you get that nice carbon fiber weave with a good glossy coat. And it has that center separation right in the middle of the wing where it's got that herringbone pattern kind of deal. So if you have a lot of your carbon fiber that has that like center split where you have that then herringbone pattern, you can get that same thing with this ZR1 wing as well. So I definitely like how all the carbon fiber looks on this car. Well, I definitely just love all the carbon fiber looks on this wing in particular. It just came out looking so good. This car is almost pretty much exactly where I wanted in regards to carbon fiber. There's a couple of other carbon fiber pieces that I'm waiting on to come out and to kind of do. So, and then when those come out, I'll definitely be sharing it with you guys. But this is getting pretty close to exactly how I envisioned this car looking, and I'm just absolutely in love with it. It is literally the best bang for your buck compared to other stuff out there. The quality is very reasonable for the price point that you're getting, and I just definitely like it. So if you're interested, I'll have links in the description below so you can check it out. But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up this video. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please check out any of my other videos. We'll see you next time. Take care, guys.